Hello, I'm Denis Greene, founder of the Stewardship System and president of Church Development. Today we're going to talk about the third out of our 7 components of the Stewardship System. In this month's training video, we want to explore how to involve church members in decision making and how this increases generosity. The definition for stewardship that I really like is letting God's blessings flow through me. And when we include people in decision-making in church, they have a direct experience and connection with the execution of the church's mission. So when they give to their church financially to support the priorities they have set, God's blessings flow directly through them to build and further God's kingdom. Now, to help you see how this plays out in churches, let's use failure analysis as our guide. In 2009, the Pew Forum did a study on former Catholics. They asked former Catholics, why are you no longer involved in your church? They had one overriding answer: I was no longer engaged in the life of the church. People who are not engaged leave churches. We find there's a direct correlation in the level of engagement and the level of giving. Ultimately, this becomes an exercise in leadership. Great leaders, according to leadership guru Warren Bennis, do 3 things. Number 1, they facilitate the visioning process. Number 2, they're good at articulating the vision. And number 3, they help everyone find their place in the vision. Gallup polling has created a tool which can assess the level of connectedness people feel with an organization. And what they've discovered is that the norm in church is that only about 15% feel deeply connected. During the process of their study, they also discovered a unique group that exists in most churches they've titled CAVE, which stands for Consistently Against Virtually Everything. Now, I know that I have a group like that in my church. You may have a group like that in your church as well. So let's look at some methods to engage people and keep them out of the cave. There are 3 methods you could use to engage people in the decision-making process: town hall meetings, priority setting exercises, and surveys. The one I think is most simple to implement is to have a town hall meeting to address an issue or issues that the church may be facing. Host a meeting right after church and ask people to stick around for an extra 30 minutes. Bring in a flip chart, ask simple questions as they pertain to the issue, and gather feedback. Make sure your facilitator is just that, one who can actively listen and generate dialogue. The second method for facilitating shared decision-making is to have your people help you set your priorities. Scott Peck, in his book titled The Different Drum, said there's no greater way to build community than engaging people in the dialogue about the mission and vision of the organization. Engage your people in setting priorities for the year ahead. You can invite people to participate in that process on a ministry-by-ministry basis, or do this together as a church body. You could hold a lunch after church services, invite people to stay for a meal, and then ask them, number 1, what ministries would best help us fulfill our mission in the coming year? Or number 2, what do you consider to be our highest priority for the year ahead? Now, a third method is similar to a consumer satisfaction survey. In its most simple form, you can ask people one question: how might we better meet your spiritual needs? If you want to explore more extensive surveying programs, here are 2 companies that have services directly designed for churches to accomplish this outcome. The first is Natural Church Development. Through surveying about 10,000 churches around the world, not just across the country, but around the world, they've discovered 8 characteristics of healthy churches. You could invite everyone in the church to be involved in that survey, and you could assess how well you're doing in those 8 categories compared to the other high-quality churches among those 10,000. Now, another wonderful survey product is called Percept. It's the same process. You engage your members in analyzing how your church is doing and compare that to the needs of your constituents and those who are seeking to be members of churches in your region. Regardless of which option you choose, be sure to compile the results and then share back with your congregants the feedback to let everyone know the results of how you're doing. Now, let me share with you 2 success stories from churches that actually implemented these methods. It led to a significant increase in giving. The first comes from First Baptist Church of Ottawa. This church had a significant conflict over the redesign of their worship space. Instead of ignoring it, as we sometimes do in churches, they decided to take it head on and involve everyone in the decision-making process. They engaged in a great deal of discussion and identified the most important component from the two opposing groups. They compromised so that both of the two conflicting parties could accomplish their most important objectives and let go of those items that were less important. This led to an agreement on how to move forward. As a result, they raised over 310% of annual giving in 3-year pledges. It was a spectacular success. Another example comes from Presentation Catholic Church. They asked everyone in the church to get involved in setting both short-term and long-term priorities. They had 5 very well-attended town hall meetings. People were asked to stick around after church. We bought them a sandwich, and then we asked them 2 questions. Number 1, what's your vision for the church over the next 5 years? And number 2, what are your priorities for the upcoming year? They discovered there was a huge consensus around paying down the debt on the church, which was a surprise to everyone. Because so many people had been involved in identifying that as a priority, giving went up by 15% for the next 5 years, and those funds were directly devoted to paying down the debt. Clearly, your pastor and key leaders will need to work together to find an effective way to engage your people in sharing the decision-making load. I'm certain this will help stimulate generosity in the church and build community in the process. Now, we've reviewed the concept of involving people in decision-making. I hope that you will invest the time and effort in engaging your people in decision-making. It will strengthen your church and help your people feel more connected to your mission. Good luck and God bless.